You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
This is where we answer our community's questions on all things wellness, weight loss, anti-aging, and of course, everything in between. Sometimes some health coaching questions, sometimes some mindset and motivation questions. We answer exercise questions, so always do feel free to let me know if there's anything on your mind. We're running about 2 months behind, about 8 weeks on answering those questions. Today's questions are coming in from December 17th, and we're at, February 9th or so today. So somewhere around 8 weeks or so behind. Again, you can always get your question answered on pretty much a daily basis at cabralsupportgroup.com. That forwards you over to a friendly Facebook group that you're welcome to join. As of today's podcast recording, almost 8,000 people, like-minded people, just like you and I from around the world, who want to share tips, share advice, ask questions, give support, get support. It's an amazing group. So do feel free to meet other people from around the world over there and get your questions answered, also from my own health coaching team as well. Okay, well, we are here today to answer more of our community's questions, and that's exactly what we are going to do. So I'm going to get started with the show. Sometimes I give a little longer intro. Today, I'm getting right into the questions. All right, first question's from Dar. Dar is asking, I'm of South Asian descent, and I find it interesting that some of the stories my dad has told me about religious, I think they are called yogis in India, who live by the village he grew up in, regularly only used to eat food once or twice a month due to religious reasons. How is this possible, and what are your views on that? It does not sound like that could be healthy. Great question. Thank you for writing in. I've answered this and talked about this a little before randomly on shows, so I'm happy to answer this again. The human body is capable of more than we could possibly imagine. So there was a study on an actual yogi who he didn't eat for basically 6 weeks. Didn't even drink water. And all his vitals were perfectly fine. They studied him at a hospital. And so essentially, they refer this to, I believe it's called like a breatharian or something like that. Like instead of a frugivore or omnivore, more like a breathivore, I guess we'll call it. And sustaining life based on breathing, breath work, the nervous system, etc. And also the sun. So that's a big thing with yogis, is being able to essentially feed off of the sun. Now, do I purport to even understand how this works, know how this works? Would I recommend this? No, I would not. Because that's more rare, right? That's the highest level of ascension, we'll call it like this. But many yogis, they live off of what's called more of a sattvic-based diet, or many yogis in India will drink a glass of raw cow's milk each day, and they will have a banana. Like, it's not a lot of food, right? But here's the thing. Let's look at this a little differently. They are in a deep state of meditation for much of the day. So even though they might be called yogis, the majority of the day is more of meditation. And so they're bringing their metabolic rate to a very, very low level. So they don't take a lot to sustain their bodies. And if you see yogis, as I've seen many, many yogis being in India multiple times, they are very quite thin. I don't know that it's necessarily best for health. I don't know that it's best for overall quality of life or energy, but I don't also think that I'm the most qualified to speak of this at that level. So for now, at the level of my understanding, this is not something I could recommend. Now, if you go back to my podcast on intermittent fasting and fasting for 12 to potentially 14 to potentially 16 hours per day, also with the once a week 24-hour fast, and then every 12 weeks, joining our community and doing that 2-3 day liquid-based fast for a functional medicine detox, I believe that is a very healthy way to go and a little bit more understandable and science-based. But again, it's only my take. It's only my outlook. But I think that it's the safest for most people. So thank you, Dar. All right, Courtney's up next. Hello, I've been dealing with melasma and also have breast implant scars. There's also another word called Hemosidren. Now, I don't know this word, the pronunciation of it, except that this is typically caused by when your body's breaking down a lot of these red blood cells. And what happens is the actual iron inside those red blood cells, which are your red blood cells store iron or ferritin, and that has to be removed from the body. So I guess if the liver is not properly doing its job, or your immune system in cleaning up this the breakdown of your red blood cells through phagocytosis and other base properties, and autophagy, I mean, that's one of the biggest parts, that it can release this through the skin. So let's go on a little bit more, and we'll see if this is the same thing we're talking about. I was wondering if you know the causes of, again, I don't know the pronunciation of this, so I apologize, but Hemosidren, maybe that's the pronunciation, and melasma. I was wondering if you knew natural ways to get rid of them. Thanks. So yes, I understand the underlying principles in both. So melasma we've talked about before in the podcast. There's so many questions. We're 8 weeks behind. I want you to go to stephencabral.com/podcast and type in melasma. And you'll see that it was mentioned on 456, 526, 576, and 1016. So you'll get your answer on melasma there. You'll find out how to basically looking at stress and underlying levels of what can happen with Addison's or Cushing's and the actual turning of the skin to a hyperpigmentation. So that's important. I got that when I had Addison's disease. I had true Addison's disease. The skin above my iliac crest, which are your hip bones, turned dark brown. That's one of the ways they were first initially diagnosing it. Anyway, so you can look at that, and then you can look at liver detox, boosting glutathione, and other ways in order to be able to decrease the melasma. Now, again, I wish I knew how to pronounce it, but your issue with Hemosidren is just what I said, is that for whatever reason, your body is not properly removing these. And so I would do a functional medicine detox. I would work with a local doctor that you can see what are your iron levels, your TI, total iron binding capacity, and your ferritin levels, transferrin levels look like in general. Are they on the higher side? And if so, it's not typical for women, but it can be. It can be, especially if you're not menstruating, then your iron levels could increase. So at that point, we typically give blood, and we give blood to reduce the basically cell count and the amount of iron in the blood as well. So there's lots of ways that we can go about this. Those are the first two. And I think you asked me about one more. And also breast implant scars. So we do a lot for scarring. Now, these are all looked at differently. So that's the interesting thing. You asked me about different skin-based issues, but these are actually all dealt with in different ways. So one of the things that we do with scars is we use proteolytic enzymes. Any enzyme that's high in protease, serrapeptase, or nattokinase can be really nice. In this case, I look for ones that are higher in protease. The Florafilm, Florafilm, at Equilibrium Nutrition, will certainly be a high protease-based enzyme, so that will help. It has serrapeptase in there. Okay, so now in terms of scarring, I'm sure I've done a show on this as well. So one thing you can do is simply head on over to stephencabral.com/podcasts and type in scar or scars, and you'll be able to find more information on that. But let me just give you a quick rundown, and then you can kind of go more in depth. So one thing that we do is we use massage for sure with the scar, which can often contain the scar tissue below that. Now, it's simply, what do we add as a topical oil to help to remove a lot of that pigmentation? So there's a bunch of things that I like to use. Vitamin C oil is certainly one of those. You could use a natural carrot seed oil, or just simply vitamin C would be fine. I use castor oil, typically when there's scar tissue itself, because it can help to break down the scar tissue, of course, with a little bit of massage, but it helps decrease the inflammation, and it can actually, like I said, dissolve that scar tissue. So that's one. A couple others that I've used for many, many years would be vitamin E oil. So vitamin E, again, with that vitamin C, super high in antioxidants. And it's been found, and actually we've used them for acne scars, and we've used them for multiple things, to be quite effective in decreasing the color, the pigmentation of the scar itself. And then just one that's kind of like one of those ones for a cure-all. It's almost like, what was the movie where they used Windex for everything? But anyway, one thing I just want to share with you on that too is we've used coconut oil for quite a number inflammatory skin-based conditions. And the other that I'll say as well is Manuka honey. So you have a few different ones that you can kind of run through that could potentially give you the results that you are looking for. Thank you for writing in. And Cass is up next. All right. Longer questions. So to read the question, you can head on over to stephencabral.com/1472. All right. So just in the essence of time, I will give you the gist of the actual question, but not all of the lab numbers the person wrote in. Hi, Dr. Cabral. I'm an IHP Level 2 student, and I have a few questions. I've run the Big 5 in Australia. Let's see. I've run the Big 5 in Australia, and I have stage 6 adrenal exhaustion, and I've had hypothyroidism for the past 10 years. I have a history of hyperthyroid as it switches between the two, no thyroid antibodies, low sex hormones, with a little estrogen, not high, low DHEA, high TSH. I've done the detox, CBO protocol, parasite protocol, take DNS, natural calm, a few other different vitamins. My cycle is between 26 and 38 days. I'm 5'7", 145 pounds. I exercise every other day, and I have an active job and lifestyle. Super clean eater. First question, should I be doing the FM detox when my body adrenals are exhausted? Second question, I've been doing the 21-day weight loss diet and have not lost the weight. I put on 6 pounds in 2 weeks over the holidays in October, and I've not been able to lose it since. Should I be doing a weight loss diet if my thyroid is already under functioning? I'm hoping to fall pregnant as soon as possible, as I'm 36, and the time is not on my side. I've been following all your protocols for 18 months. I look forward to your recommendations. Okay, so what we have here, you didn't write in your cortisol levels. So I don't even know, the stage 6 adrenal exhaustion means that your cortisol levels are plummeting, your DHEA levels are low, so that very well could be. So what we're looking at is a body that's more in a survival-based state, which makes perfect sense with why your body's not losing the weight. So the body can't lose the weight if it's in sympathetic nervous system dominance and it's in more of a survival-based state. It's going to lower metabolism. We already see that happening with a TSH which is thyroid stimulating hormone, of 4.57, when a healthy TSH should be between 0.5 to 2. Okay, but you don't have thyroid antibodies, which is a good thing. So what we need to do is get that body out of a high sympathetic nervous system dominant state, which means that we don't want to go on any crash diets. We don't want to be over fasting. We don't want to be over exercising. We want to be getting that 8 hours of quality sleep a night. Make sure your deep sleep is about 10% of your total sleep time. It should be about an hour and 20 minutes or so if you're sleeping for 8 hours. And we want to make sure that you're eating enough carbohydrates just so that you're not telling your body that you are in a starvation-based state. Now, I know that we need to work a little bit on the other ends of the weight loss equation before we get your body to lose weight. And the reason is, again, we need to tell your body that it's not starving, that it's in a safe place, and that stress is low. And then if that's the case, well, not only will your adrenals be able to rebound, especially if you're using our adrenal-based protocols, but your thyroid levels will fall back into a more normal range, and you'll have a much easier time getting pregnant as well. So I'd love you to listen to my shows on how to have a happy, healthy pregnancy. We talk about these things. I know you're an IHP Level 2 student, which is great because you're going to be learning a lot of these protocols if you haven't already. And I would also like you to look into Fatlocity as a new product which debuted since you wrote in on 12/18. And the reason is this addresses thyroid. It addresses cortisol issues. If they're more exaggerated, it looks into thermogenesis. And you could be using this product and system along with adding in some more of those starches in your diet. So we can be working on both thermogenesis, thyroid, if you're not already on daily thyroid support, as well as a synergistic-based process to get that body burning more body fat. However, you're 5'7", 145. I know that you want to lose a little bit weight. I don't know what your goal is, but you're probably not that far away from your goal. So I want you to focus more on health, right? So focus more on health. Keep focusing on health, focusing and telling your body that it's not in this survival-based state, and you will be able to heal. No doubt about it. All right, Jackie's up next. Hi, Dr. Ball. Thank you so much for the knowledge you share on your podcast. It's been truly life-changing. I have a question regarding my brother. He tried a high-protein diet and was feeling ill. Turns out that one of his kidneys is very small. They think he was born that way. Looks like he only has one good functioning kidney, and the high-protein diet was too much for his body. He is off the high-protein diet, is now more open to a balanced diet, and already feeling better. My question is, what can he do other than the daily foundational support to further support his body now knowing this? Would you recommend normal protein diet or one that is lower in protein? He's 26 years old, otherwise seems healthy. Thank you for all you do. I mean, happy to help with this. A good buddy of mine from high school ended up having to have one kidney removed. And you can function perfectly fine with one kidney. Your brother, even if he has one kidney that's a little smaller, well, he is, let's just say, he's 1.5, 1 3/4. That's okay. But I agree. And I talk about this and I know that so many people get offended by it because they're so dogmatic about that everything has to be one way or another. And some people just don't function well with a high protein diet. And in the majority of cases, I would even say it's detrimental to people's health. I talk about it on this coming Tuesday's podcast. I would love you and your brother to check out episode 1474 coming up on Tuesday. It's the number one diet for heart health and longevity. And it's unbiased. And it's going to make a lot of people really upset. And I don't want those people to be upset, but I want them to start to think about the research and being unbiased and looking at really long-term population. Like the longest lived people ate a diet that was maybe 10% of their diet protein, 15% really maximum. So, okay, well, there's a starting point. If you want to live a long, healthy life, 10 to 15% of your diet from protein. Now, let's look at the research. And the research is showing, those people that eat more than 19% of their diet from protein, greater chance for cancer, greater chance for all-cause mortality. Interesting. Now, those people that ate more than 19% of their diet, and it was from animal-based protein, specifically red meat, well, they fared even worse. So it's like, well, when we look at plant-based protein, it's just less harsh on the body, less of an issue with, again, IGF-1, mTOR. I know I keep going back to those, new 5GC, but there's a lot. Like it affects a lot of the body. It can even affect blood sugar and insulin levels. If you eat a big steak, trust me, even if you eat it all by itself, it can spike your blood sugar levels. You can test it out. And I think you'd be surprised. Am I against all forms of meat? I'm not. I'm not even saying that. What I'm saying is we need to be careful. If you're eating meat multiple times per day, I can't recommend that, okay? So I think we can be very healthy, Jackie, for writing in, and I think we can look more towards fish. Again, check out the episode 1474. It's going to give you all that and plant-based proteins. And then you can also check out my podcast on how I just laid out like a super simple diet on increasing more healthy foods in your diet. I wish I could find exactly the one it was, but you can check back for previous podcasts on those podcasts on a plant-based diet. So super, super simple. Okay, now let's see if we can get in one more question. Courtney's up next. Hi, Dr. Ball. Thank you for all you do. I recently found out that I'm pregnant, and I'm so thankful for all your information. I was wondering if L-lysine is safe to take during pregnancy. I have herpes, and I'm wanting to do everything I can not to pass it along to my baby. My doctor recommended I take Valtrex during my last trimester of pregnancy to prevent the baby from getting it. What are your thoughts on this? Is there a more holistic approach? So, Courtney, I'd love you to check out the podcast on how to destroy viruses. It gives you my entire protocol. So, although I'm not a huge fan of using herbs while pregnant, because herbs really are medicine, I will use them if the alternative is often more harsh pharmaceuticals. So, what I'd like to say is this, is that for like right off the bat, what we do for herpes-based viruses is we're using apple cider vinegar. Now, it makes some people worse and some people better, so we can test it, right? So we're using that. We're using zinc. We're using vitamin C. And we're using grapefruit seed extract, which you won't be using while you're pregnant. And we're typically using L-lysine. Now, there's a lot more things that we can use, but that's what we use right off the bat. And we see a lot of success just with that. And the question then becomes, though, can you take L-lysine at the dosage, which is what we recommend to help with herpes and viruses, of 3,000 milligrams per day? It's 1,000 milligrams in divided doses throughout the day. safely. And there's not enough research on that because it's a higher dose. And this is more of a smaller clinical-based study. And, the thing is, as well as we aren't going to test these types of things on a lot of pregnant or nursing moms. Now, again, you do want my recommendation. So again, I can't give you medical-based advice. But what I would do is start with the higher zinc, higher vitamin C, and the apple cider vinegar. Again, I can't give you medical advice. So I'm just saying this is what I would do for my wife if she was in this position. And then I would move to the L-lysine at 1,000 milligrams. How is that working? Okay, in 3 days, if I need to, I'll increase it to another 1,000 milligrams, and I will be looking at that as well. I would feel comfortable most likely with my wife, but really what I would do too is I would look at higher lysine foods. Now, again, you can go to, let's see if I can find this. Let me go to my podcast page, stevencabral.com/podcast, if you haven't heard me say that enough, and we'll just type in lysine. And we'll see if I can find the show on high lysine foods and high arginine foods, which you want to stay away from the high arginine foods and you want to go for the high lysine foods. This will help maybe just by itself. This can be pretty tremendous. So the episode, How to Destroy Viruses, Herpes, Shingles, and Cold Sores, that's episode 760. Do I have a graphic on the higher arginine foods? I do not see one, but I did notice magnesium in there, and I agree I would add magnesium in as well. Okay, so let's find you the one. I know that I have one on arginine, and so hopefully I have a graphic on making sure that if you're not eating high arginine foods, which you should stay away from, what about increasing a high lysine-based foods? All right, I am not finding this, so what I would do is really write into cabralsupportgroup.com and ask them for the podcasts where it lists the foods that are high in arginine and the foods that are high in lysine. I can just tell you that, right off the bat, in terms of the high arginine foods, because this is more of the list that I have memorized, we eliminate, and these are healthy foods. So we're eliminating things like blueberries, blackberries, pecans, cashews, pumpkin seeds, and one of everybody's favorites, which is chocolate. So I believe tomatoes are on there as well, not positive, but again, you'll be able to find out the list. So if you're eating any of those foods that I just mentioned, those will actually, you'll remove those, and they could be a big difference maker in and of themselves. And then I would love you to, again, write into the community, because that's what the community is all about, and you'll be able to find those foods that are higher in L-lysine. So again, you can check it out. It might be on a show with shingles, it might be on a show with herpes, but our team should be able to find that. So, Courtney, hopefully that was helpful. And thank you so much, everyone, for writing into the show. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Thank you for leaving your reviews on iTunes and subscribing to the show. So, as always, if this show was helpful, please do feel free to pass this information and the show along to anyone you believe it will serve. And of course, tomorrow, we're right back at it on Monday with our motivation and mindset shows. Hopefully you tune in then. Take care, everyone. Have a great rest of your weekend. Are you ready to heal yourself and then go on to heal others? If so, the Integrative Health Practitioner Institute can help you discover proven functional medicine protocols that blend the best of 7 different healing disciplines from around the world. I personally share with you the exact handouts and protocols I use in my private practice that enable people to get well, lose the weight, and live longer, stronger. I want to pass this information on to the next generation of health coaches, and that is exactly why I created IHP. We are the future of the health coaching industry, and the skills and knowledge you will learn will make you an in-demand certified health coach anywhere in the world. Although we have many medical professionals taking the IHP certifications, no experience is necessary, and half our members have no previous health certifications. At the Integrative Health Practitioner Institute, our motto is a health coach in every home. Our goal is that you take this knowledge and then share it with family, friends, loved ones, your community, or in a practice where you create a career you love and can be proud of. The global IHP community is filled with some of the most kind and caring people in the world, and we can't wait to welcome you into our world soon. For more information or to set up a discovery call with one of our IHP Health Coach graduates, simply head over to integrativehealthpractitioner.org.